Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the introduction. I need to start with a confession. When I was 5 years old, my kindergarten teacher sent a note home to my mother. And it read, and I quote, "Dear Mrs. Behrens, Peter has become quite a discipline problem lately, challenging authority by doing what he wants, underlined, and not paying attention too much." Here's the actual note. Look at the bottom of that. Miss Young put a little smiley face on the bottom, as if to say, "Miss Behrens, your kid's a problem, but have a nice day." Some might call this insubordination. I like to think of it as early experiments in leadership. And I think my mom would have agreed, because you know what she did with this note? She saved it right there in my scrapbook. Either that or she was collecting evidence. In truth, I struggled in school early on, especially with the subjective stuff like English and spelling. I just found there was too many exceptions, too many opinions, too many shades of gray. But then something magical happened. I discovered math. Math was beautiful. It was clean. It was predictable. It had rules and logic. The answers were clearly right or wrong. It wasn't discussion, it wasn't debate, it was just facts. And the best part, half the answers were right there. The odd number ones were right there in the back of the book. Instant feedback. I was in heaven. Sounds like I have some fellow math nerds in the audience. Well, math led to science. Science led to programming. And I found more logic, more rules, more solutions to problems. Sure, the problems got harder, but so did my resolve to solve them. I would find that I could spend days, weeks, even months diving into a complex problem. And when it came together, when everything clicked, when the pieces came together, when that unsolvable became solvable, it was like magic. But then something happened. As I left school and entered the workforce, I started to recognize once again I was facing problems that didn't have answers in the back of the book. Once again, I'm starting to face problems that logic alone couldn't solve. Once again, just differences, competing opinions, endless shades of gray. This frustrated me, and so I gave a name to this. I call it the fog. The fog is a place where there aren't clear answers, only difficult choices. We often think of the fog as an event, a crisis, that moment you can look at and say, that's when everything changed. And sure, sometimes it is, sometimes it hits us like a tidal wave. But more often the fog creeps. It kind of builds slowly, layer by layer, until one day you realize the clarity that you once had, that you once trusted, it's gone. And you barely even notice. Sure, you're still busy. Sure, you're still filling your calendar. You're getting work done. But something's different. Perhaps you've felt this, where maybe your calendar is full, but you feel emptier at the end of the day. Maybe your team is still active, but it's not interactive or aligned very well. Maybe your organization needs to change, but you just can't name it, or maybe you're not even the one you're sure could change it. These fogs, they're not individual events. They bleed together. They connect, they overlap, and collectively, I call it the fog because it never truly goes away. It just changes shape, changes density. Depressing, is it? But here's the thing I want you to hear. Here's what took me too long to understand. The fog is where real leadership begins. Not the kind of leadership that comes on the title on your door, but the kind that matters, the kind that makes a difference. It doesn't come with answers, it comes with choices. It doesn't come with clarity, it comes with courage. And so I'm inviting you to join me on a journey through this fog. Picture this. I'm at my desk, office door closed. I'm not hiding. I'm not antisocial, maybe a bit. I just needed to focus. I was on one of those complex system design problems, you know, the kind I'm talking about where you get so locked in, so absorbed that hours could just pass like minutes. I was in the zone. Everything was clicking when Mark arrived. Fresh out of school, Mark was new to the work world. He was young, he was full of potential, and yet completely green. And guess who's assigned to mentor Mark? Me. Now, I had earned my expertise, years of complex problem solving, years of late nights, hard-earned knowledge. And now I'm being asked to share it. Here's the thing. I didn't ask for Mark. I certainly didn't need Mark. And if I'm being honest, I didn't want Mark. All I could see is Mark's going to slow me down. Mark's going to get in my way. So what did I do? I did what many first-time leaders do. I gave Mark a nice, safe, isolated side project. Something out of the way, something certainly out of my problem domain. And for a while, that worked beautifully. Mark was in his corner, I'm in my corner, like two kids playing in a sandbox, each with their own toys, perfectly content. And then we needed the same toy. It was time to integrate Mark's work. And that's when I saw it. What I missed all along the way, sloppy code, sloppy design, it was a mess. So what did I do? I threw away his work, all of it. And I redid it myself from scratch with Mark sitting right beside me in the passenger seat where I thought he belonged. I see you shaking your head like, oh no, what did you do? At the time, I thought Mark had failed. But here's what I know today. Mark didn't fail, I did. Mark wasn't the problem, I was. Because Mark wasn't in my way, Mark was my work. Leadership doesn't use people to achieve outcomes. Leadership recognizes people are the true outcomes. I had missed this completely. Now, there's more to this story. And it wasn't just Mark at work this problem was showing up. It was also something I was carrying home with me and showing up with my partner, Jana. Now, for this part of the demonstration, I want to take this out of the office to help us understand what we can learn from this story. And so I'm going to need your help for a minute. We all know this concept of the dishwasher. If you have a dishwasher, that appliance in your household, I want you to stand up for me. Go ahead. Stand up. If you have a dishwasher at home, stand up. Okay. Looks like a pretty common appliance. Okay, we got one or two without a dishwasher. That's cool. Now, what I've learned is every household that has a dishwasher has at least one person in that household who has the correct way to load that dishwasher. Okay, if you're that person, you know who you are. Remain standing. The rest of you may sit down. All right, look around the room. I'm with you. I'm still standing. I have the correct way. I have the formula. Maximum dishes, maximum clean, perfect arrangement. Jana, she's in this room. She doesn't agree. And for years, probably decades, I thought she was wrong. I preached my gospel of proper dish arrangement as I rearranged her dishes. Am I seeing some fellow preachers in the audience? Thank you. You can sit down too. What I learned is this. Jana isn't wrong. She has a different right. What is that? Jana, what right means to Jana is speed. Get the dishes in, move on with life. So it doesn't matter where the dish goes. As long as it's in, mission accomplished. 2 formulas, 2 rights. So that brings us back to Mark. What do we take away from my story of Mark? Leadership isn't about knowing the right way. Leadership is about navigating and managing that tension between my right way and being open to other right ways. I had closed my door to Mark, not only physically, but emotionally. And you know what? We both failed. I had missed my opportunity, and I encourage you to consider what your opportunity might be to open your door and step into the fog with someone else. About 5 years later, I'm leading a new team. Now, this team was a lot like Mark. They were young, they were full of potential, but to be honest, they were undisciplined. That's why I was brought in, to bring structure, to get them moving in the right direction. And so I did. We instituted clear priorities, daily huddles, these short feedback cycles, structure, process, discipline, all that good stuff we put in place. We got the team moving and grooving. They were building momentum. My lead engineer came into my door, knocked on my door, said, "Pete, you got a minute? Want us to join us for a meeting?" I said, "Sure." Another sync. Sounds awesome. I walk into that room, and the team's waiting for me. The whole team. And they weren't happy, and they laid it out clearly. They didn't feel heard. They felt pushed, steamrolled even. They didn't feel like I was managing. They felt micromanaged. I believe the word they used was manipulated. I thought I was collaborating. They only felt my heavy hand of control. This wasn't a meeting, I quickly realized. It's an intervention. I was blindsided. I was humbled, certainly. I didn't see this coming. How did this happen? I thought, in this case, my door was open. I thought I was approachable. I thought I was listening, but they felt something different. I call this our inner fog. It's when the fog goes in our head, kind of like how the windows steam up in the car on a rainy, humid day. We can't see what's right in front of us. That's what happened to me. I did not see what was happening right in front of me until my team intervened. Now, I learned from this, I really did. But those windows didn't clear up for another 5 years for me, in a quiet conversation with Ryan. Now, I met Ryan early in my coaching career. So this is 5 years later. And what struck me about Ryan is he was a lot like that earlier version of me. He had a new team. He had a young and full of potential. That they needed discipline, structure, process, all that good stuff we just talked about. And he invited me in to help them achieve that. And so I did. We put in all the rhythms. In fact, the first day this team met in person together was a class that I ran. Their first weeks together, they built their desks, they built their team norms, we built their team culture together. We built the groove, we got them moving, we got building momentum. But as we did, something started to bother me. I realized Ryan knew everything I was teaching. And I thought, he could have done this himself. Why did he bring me in? Why am I even needed in this situation? And eventually, I gained the courage to ask. And what he said cleared my windows. He said, "Pete, if I had told the team to do this, they'd do it because I'm the boss. But because you're here helping us, we're doing it because it's the right thing to do." Boom. My view unobstructed. But what's the lesson here? Once again, I'm going to need your help. This time, we've all been to a sporting game, a team sport event. Maybe it's basketball, football, soccer, volleyball, whatever it is, professional kids. If you've been to a team sporting event, please stand up again. All right, pretty common, right? We've all probably experienced that. Now, another thing I tend to find at these sporting events is frustration with the referee. If you've ever been frustrated by the referee, remain standing. If that's not something in your purview, you can go ahead and sit down. Yeah, look around. Look around. I'm frustrated with the referee, right? Why? Got your attention? What does the referee have? The whistle, the authority. They can enforce the rules, call the penalties. But what happens when the referee doesn't blow the whistle? Players learn to cheat, break the rules. Fans get frustrated. The game descends into chaos. But what happens if they blow the whistle too much? Almost the same thing. Players get frustrated. They get confused. What's a foul? What's not? Fans get frustrated and the game grinds to a halt. You can sit down. Thank you. This whistle is a tricky thing. Too much, too little, it causes a problem. Here's what I want you to do next time you go to a game. Don't just follow the ball. Watch the referee. Notice what the best referees are doing. Not during the play, but before the game starts and even during the breaks. What are they doing? They're talking to players. They coach. They warn. They talk to the coaches. They build relationship. They're building trust and respect so that when they do blow that whistle, it means something. So that brings us back to what Ryan taught me. Ryan, when I pause, slow down, Pete. I was assuming leadership came from my title on the door. I led with my title. I assumed that brought respect. I was wrong. Ryan, he saw what I couldn't. Ryan recognized the illusion of authority. He put his authority aside specifically. He joined his team, and you know what? His team respected him. Real leadership doesn't come from the title on your door. It comes from people that want to follow you, not because they have to, but because they want to. I want to make this as real as possible. We've been exploring the fog, a place that doesn't have clear answers, only difficult choices. If that's the case, leadership isn't about picking a right side. It's about managing this tension between sides, about how to hold it, manage it without having it tear you apart. I want you to feel this, literally, but I need 2 volunteers to come up on stage with me. Do I have any volunteers? Just 2 volunteers? Come up on stage. Yeah, come on up. Come on up. I need 1 more. Don't be shy. We won't bite. Promise. There we go. Come on up.
There we go.
Yeah, give him a hand. Give him a hand. Thank you, Ashley.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you. And it's Robert.
Robert.
Thank you. We heard good things about you, Robert.
The Carducci Whisperer.
The Carducci Whisperer. Awesome. I'm going to hand you both this exercise band, and I want you to then hold on to it and then start to pull. No, really pull. We have insurance, I think.
I have 2 work comp claims in my life.
I don't know if you heard that. Yeah, she has work comp. Are you a little nervous? What you're seeing here illustrates the stories I just shared. 2 opposing sides, each pulling in different directions. With Mark, it's my expertise working against the openness I needed to develop his expertise. With my team, it's my authority to lead versus the respect I needed to earn from my team. This isn't a problem we can solve. There's no formula that's going to give you an answer for this. And look what happens. What happens when we pull? Go ahead, Ashley, pull. What do you feel?
A lot of
Tension. At minimum, we're creating stress. We're adding tension to this. At its breaking point, we fail. And you can't let go or it all falls apart. How does it feel?
strong. Gonna have to have strong muscles to
Yeah.
hold
Is it tiring?
Yes.
It's uncomfortable.
It's uncomfortable. Yeah. But you know what? This isn't the only two tensions leaders face. The landscape of leadership is riddled with these tensions. Do you know other tensions that feel like this? Other things that you face as leaders that look like this? Anybody want to shout out something? Another tension? Don't be shy. Can you guys think of one? Conflict? Yeah, just different priorities, directions. What about things like, do I go hands-on with the team or do I stay hands-off? Should I go tactical or strategic? These are all tensions that leaders are navigating every single day. And there's no answer. What you can do is you can manage it. You can ease tension. How? How would you ease tension? Okay, ease the tension. Ooh, how does that feel?
Relax. Yes, a relief.
And just when you think you have things figured out, things change. I need 2 more volunteers to come up. Who would like to join this group? Come on up. Come on up. Yep, we got 2. Come enjoy the fun. You know, I wish leadership only gave us one clear pull. That's not the way it works, does it? Leadership is much messier than that. It's not just this bilateral pull that we see. Come on up. Grab a hold of this rubber band. Yep, there you go. All right, now pull in different directions. Each one of you, pull. This is the real landscape of leadership. Messy. Multiple priorities, multiple stakeholders, differing directions, everybody wanting something different from the organization. Anybody feel this? Yeah, am I speaking to the choir here? You know, there is no balance here. There is no perfect. And just when you think you have things figured out, somebody new comes in and pulls in an entirely different direction. This might look like chaos, but it's not. This is leadership. This is what you signed up for. Give our participants a round of applause. And no injuries.
Yes,
no
yeah,
injuries. Maybe some stress fractures. Our first 2 stories illustrated a personal fog. That internal battle we face as leaders, the individually, right? This is my expertise and openness, authority and respect, strategic and tactical. We're dealing with these every single day. But tension doesn't stay personal. The fog spreads, it scales, it becomes organizational. And our next story is going to take us into that messy, multi-directional tension we just experienced. I met Amy a few years after my last story. Amy was, how do we describe this? Exhausted? Frazzled might be a better word. She was in charge of an IT team. It was pretty small, but it supported multiple aspects of the business. So they had a lot of responsibility, the keep the lights on kind of responsibility, right? That customers and employees, they depend on every single day. The problem? They were underwater. There was more requests than they could handle. Every stakeholder had their top priority. And guess what? They were all due yesterday. Anybody ever feel this? Now, what stood out to me was the way Amy described it. She said, Pete, it feels like I'm in a game of ping pong, only I'm not playing, I'm the ball. I'm like, ouch. The stakeholders have a paddle, her team has a paddle, and Amy, she's just getting whacked back and forth over and over and over. I see this a lot, by the way. It's sad. And I empathized with Amy. You know, she's fighting that eternal battle between demand and capacity. I think you've all been in this battle, right? It's brutal because as soon as we add capacity, what happens? Demand grows faster. It's like filling a bucket with a hole in the bottom. It never ends. It never goes away. As much as you produce, they demand more. And Amy certainly tried to increase capacity, but it wasn't enough. It was never enough. So I asked Amy, I said, if there's another game you could play, what would it be? She thought about that for a bit. She said, I don't know the game, but I wish the stakeholders would play each other, not me. I said, oh, that's really interesting. So like you want to be maybe like that referee we just talked about, or a facilitator, or perhaps like the dealer of a card game. And when I said that, her eyes lit up. She was like, I like that. And so right then and there, a new game was born, poker. Amy didn't call it poker, that's what I called it. She knew this was going to be a battle. This was going to be like a cage fight. So in our private coaching conversation, she would call this Battlezoid. I don't know why that term, but that's what she came up with. But here's what she did. She invited the stakeholders to the table, and she laid out her team's capacity for everyone to see. And she gave each stakeholder a set of chips, poker chips. And she said the rules are pretty simple. You show up and you play. You're not playing me, though. I'm not the one you have to convince for your priority. You got to get investment from your peers to win your top priority. And if you don't show up, your chips go in the pot for the other leaders, other stakeholders to use. How's that for accountability? Now, did the tension go away? No. But here's what Amy realized. The tension got shared. It wasn't just Amy holding that tension anymore. When she put it out on the table, when she made it everyone's responsibility, she shared that tension with the others. What she realized is sometimes how a decision gets made is more important than what that decision is. Because in the fog, it's rarely about finding the right decision. What is right in the fog anyways? We don't know. It's about creating the conditions that enable better decisions to be made. Amy changed the game, and in doing so, she changed her leadership. Have you been enjoying the stories? You like these stories? Awesome. I appreciate that. I love stories too. So I wrote a book of them. It's called Into the Fog, Leadership Stories from the Edge of Uncertainty, and you are hearing some of the stories that are written in the book. And everything you're seeing is part of the book. And the good news is you all get a copy. Yay! I do have one more story that I want to bring us home through this fog. But I need your help again. This time I just want you to put your hand over your heart for just a second. My heart's beating. Is your heart beating? Probably something you haven't thought about today much, is it? I wasn't thinking about my heart much when I visited my doctor, and he put that stethoscope up to my ribs, that cold shock of metal that just like, oh. But this time the doctor paused a little longer. And then he asked a question that, I don't know if a doctor should ask this. He said, are you feeling okay? It's the kind of question that makes you wonder, am I? I think I am. And then he paused longer and he said, something doesn't sound right. That's the other thing you don't want to hear a doctor say. So as the nurse is rolling in the portable EKG machine and hooking up the probes, I'm rethinking my morning. My workout that morning, I had been winded and lightheaded. And I kind of thought, well, maybe poor sleep, low blood sugar, we come up with excuses. And sure enough, the printer started to produce that little chart. Doctor reads it, arrhythmia. My heart isn't keeping rhythm. I think, I'm fit, I'm strong, I ride my bike 3 to 4 times a week. On the outside, I'm strong and healthy and fit. But inside is telling a different story. As I thought about my summer, I realized, on the bike, I wasn't as strong this summer. But I thought, well, I'm getting older. I didn't get out as much. Maybe it's just a lack of preparation. We come up with excuses, right? Just to keep us moving. The irony here, in my profession, I'm the one asking leaders, are you feeling all right? I was at a leadership team event when I was asking these leaders, we were doing an offsite, and I asked these leaders, are you feeling all right? I think they looked at me like I looked at my doctor, what are you talking about? And they're like, oh, the metrics are good. We're performing, we're delivering. Like on the outside, they looked healthy. Now I'm there, so they've got some issues. They've got some turnover, some retention issues. They've got a few market disruptions. So, but those are excuses, right? We're good at those, coming up with excuses. Then I showed them this chart. Think of this like an organizational EKG. We do a survey, we get insights from the organization, and it is a bit like seeing what's going on inside your heart. Now, there's some data points in here I just want to call out. You don't need to fully understand, just recognize there's a couple key data points. One is the black and the red. That represents the employee's view and the leader's view. So we're seeing different parts of the heart in this case and how they're beating. And we also see how they feel now, but also what they would like to feel like. That's tension. So what we're seeing here is basically the heartbeat of the organization. Then I started to dive in as leaders were zooming in, and I started to say, look here, between control and create. This represents the tension between the structure, stability, reliability we need to run our bank, this was a bank, and the innovation and the creativity and the freedom we need to create some new services because the industry's changing a lot. FinTech is driving. They knew this. This wasn't news to them. In fact, this is exactly why I was there. They didn't need me to tell them this, but what it did is it confirmed their reality. Okay, we get that. We see that. And you know what? Leaders and employees both felt that. This is like the rubber band pulling, feeling a tension between how we feel today and what we would like to feel. Now then I showed him, I said, but there's a more interesting data point in here. And that's this. It's between compete and collaborate. This represents the tension between the drive to get stuff done, that's down in the blue, and doing it together. And I said, notice this tension. As leaders, you don't feel it. To you, this feels fine. The rubber band is in the center. But look at what your employees are telling you. This is their intervention. This is them saying, I'm not happy. All I feel is pushed, steamrolled even. That's what the employees were telling. What's interesting is what we're representing here is the fog doesn't just surround us, doesn't just get inside our heads, it permeates organizations too. What we see is fog gets between departments, divisions, it gets through hierarchy levels, and that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the fog where leaders can't see what's right in front of them. They didn't know this tension existed. Maybe there was signs, but then they come up with excuses. Oh yeah, we're good at that, aren't we? One of the leaders asked, so what do we do? I said, this is often where leaders go wrong. We want the fix, the 5-point plan, the formula. Tell me what to do, right? We want that fix. I said, what if your answer wasn't another strategy? I said, what do you normally do after one of these events? I think somebody said, well, we put together, we collaborate, we get this plan put together, the strategy, and then we compile it into a presentation and we push it out. I said, okay, sounds pretty typical. Let's look at that from the other side, from the employee's perspective. Leaders go away to some nice off-site location like Clearwater, Florida. They get together, they have some fun, they come back, and they push a new strategy on us. How empowering and motivating is that? I said, maybe your solution isn't another strategy. Maybe it's a new way to design strategy. Now, for me in my heart, it required surgery. I had ablation surgery and 6 months of recovery. A step back so I could take some more steps forward. And you know what? My Apple Watch tells me how my heart's doing every week. Is it keeping rhythm? For this leadership team, it was something equally as uncomfortable. It was taking their foot off the gas and bringing the problem to the people, not a new solution. How do we co-develop strategy in a new way, a step back in order to enable more steps forward? Now for them, they don't have an Apple Watch to measure theirs, but what we do is we take another EKG, organizational EKG. We do another survey, and this is what it showed 18 months later. What you're seeing is not perfect lines. Just as my heart will never keep perfect rhythm. No heart is. My doctor told me, Pete, there's always going to be arrhythmia. Every heart has arrhythmia. It's an organ. It oscillates. It doesn't perform perfectly. No organization is going to have a perfect heartbeat either. There's always going to be tension. But you know what? The tension's been eased. Not only have they improved performance, they're improving the health of the organization. So I ask you this, thinking about your heartbeat. Is there a place in your life, in your work, in your team, in your organization that's out of sync? What's it trying to tell you? Is there a place you might need to pause and pivot in order to take more steps forward? Take that step back so you can take some more step forwards. Because one of the things we recognize is in the fog, speed only compounds errors. If you're just going to go forward thinking, hey, we'll fix this on the fly, that's the mistake. But stopping is equally as problematic in the fog. You get slammed from behind or you fall behind. What's interesting about the fog, the most important thing is clarity, but that's the most scarce. How do we get clarity in the fog? So sometimes the most important decision is to pause, reflect, and pivot. A step back to enable more steps forward. I've shared this fog, not just out there, but in here too, in you, in your team, in your organization. This fog is not just going to lift. It doesn't part like a curtain. It's going to surround you. It's going to get inside of you, and it's going to require and ask you to move anyway. And leadership? Leadership isn't something that's going to steer you away from the fog. In fact, leadership is going to more likely take you into the fog. Why? Because leadership takes us places we've never been before. It takes us from where we are now to where we need to be next. That's uncertain. That's going to change. That's the fog. And so if you're waiting for clarity, if you're waiting for a map, if you're waiting for permission, this is your opportunity, your chance to lead, your chance to step into the fog. And I just have 3 questions to carry with you on this journey. Question 1, is there a door you need to open? Identify the mark in your life that maybe needs to be invited into the fog with you. Is there a tension that you're burdening like Amy was that could be shared? If so, what is that? Is there a step back that you could take where something's out of sync, a place to pause and pivot? I don't need you to solve these problems. What I'm asking you to do is just name it. Because in the fog, clarity is what matters most. Clarity is the first step, naming it. I opened the Keynote with a confession of a kindergarten note that my mom received. I want to close with another confession. I don't have this all figured out. I struggle with this every single day. I still close my door when it should be open. I still tug on that band when I shouldn't be. I still try to play the hero when I should be the facilitator. I don't have leadership mastered. But what I have figured out, what is different today than it was years ago, I notice it faster. I recover quicker. And I ask for help sooner. Because I realize that in the fog, we don't have to take that journey alone. And neither do you. So I'm asking, who's going to join you in the fog? Thank you.